Hey guys, what's up? So today in this video I'm going to be basically just covering all the basics of JavaScript. And for this video you should know HTML and CSS, which are the other two web languages. And yeah, let's get started. So JavaScript, you can write it either internally or externally. If you write it internally, you're writing it within the HTML5 or the HTML document, which is like this. You always write JavaScript inside the script tags, and if you write it externally, you have another file, and let's just call this test. Okay, so like you basically just create another file, and you write your JavaScript in here, and then you can connect it with your HTML5 by doing this. Script source equals to, and then the name of your file with .js, and then you just end it with a script tag, okay? So that's external JavaScript when you write it in a separate file, okay? So in this tutorial, we're just going to write JavaScript internally, but same thing, basically, okay? So yeah, let's start. You can, there are many ways to like print onto the document in JavaScript, but the most common way is document or write, because you're writing onto the document. Okay, so let's say document or write 1, and then you can see there's 1, okay? And now, there are other comments. So this is a single line comment, so hello, and there's a multi-line comment. Okay, so you can write multi-line comments. So yeah, and then there are different data types. For example, int, float, and then there's string and boolean. Okay, so an integer can either be 5 or 8 or 9 or 101, sorry, 1001, or minus 200 and 2003. Okay, it's basically anything without a decimal. Okay? So even 5.0, that would be a decimal. Okay, and a float is a decimal. So 5.0, that's a decimal, and 5.03 is also decimal, and minus 5.03 is also decimal. Okay, and then string is anything with two pairs of quotations at the and then also at the start. So as you can see, first you put a quotation and then another quotation, and you can write anything here. For example, hello world. And a string can also only have numbers, so like 8880.5 blah blah. Okay, and at the same time it can also have a letter. So b boolean. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. So it's basically anything with two quotations. Okay. And now boolean it only has two values, which is true or false. Okay. So those are the main data types. And then you can also print these data types. So for example, 1 we just did, that's an integer. Minus 5 is also an integer. And then a float, minus 100.3. Okay. And then you can also print out a string, so you can do hello world. And then you can also print out a boolean. It's true. Okay. But if you print out a string, for example, and do not include the quotations, then it's going to give an error, and you can inspect the element or show the page source, and you can go here, and then say syntax error, unexpected identifier, world expected quotations. Okay, so which is why you need quotations. Okay, so now you can do hello world. All right. So that's the basics, and also whenever you end a statement in JavaScript, you always need a semicolon. Okay. And now, what you'll need to do is we're gonna learn arrays. Okay. So no, first we're gonna learn variables. So a variable can have any of the data types. So it always starts with var. Okay. The var, and then the name of the variable. For example, x equals to. It can either be 5, and then you have to end the statement. So this is an integer, and then it can also be a string, for example, hello, and then it can also be a float, for example, 3.1415, and then it can also be a boolean, okay, true. And then you can also print the variable, so document.write x, And since yeah, so you just put x there, and then it will print out true. And then if x is 5, then it will print out 5. And if x is a string, so hello, then it will print out hello. Okay. So and then you can also change the variable. So var, sorry, and then x. So like whenever you change the variable, you just use the name of it. So you never use var. Okay. So x equals to 3. Okay. So now x is going to be equal to 3, which is why it's going to print out 3. Okay. So just to see the change, you can also do document.write x up here, and then first it will print out hello, and then it will print out 3. And with HTML, you can actually also give a break. So x plus, and then in quotations br with a tag. That means break in HTML. Okay. So first it prints out hello, and then it changes the variable, and then it prints out 3 because we changed the variable into 3. Okay. And now you can also increment the variable, which is adding or subtracting it. So you can do x equals to x plus 3. So like it basically changes the value of x plus 3. Okay? And then document.write x. And I'll give 6. Okay? Oh yeah, and always have the plus br. Okay? Yeah. And then you can also subtract it. So you can do x equals x minus 3, which will give 0. Okay? So first hello, then 3, then 0. And you can also have multiple variables, so you can have var y equals 0, and then you can print out y. Okay? You can also change it to like true, and then we'll print out true. Okay? Now we're going to be covering the other data types. The first one is going to be called an array. Okay? So an array is going to, since it's also variable, you're going to start with var, and then the name of the array, let's say numbers, okay, equals, okay. Now an array is kind of like a list, okay. So like it has a list of items, okay. So for example, you can start with 1, and then you have to this is the first element, 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then 6, and then 4, and then 9, and then 0, and then 11. Okay, so these are different numbers in the array, and each of them have their own index. Okay, and I'll tell you what that means. So yeah, so an array can have like not only numbers, it can also have a string, so let's say 9. It can also have a boolean, so let's say true. It can also have a float, so 5.03, and it can also have another array inside. So see, whenever you create an array, you always use these 2 square brackets, and then inside you can put other things. Okay, so like the first element is 1, then 2, then true, then 6, and 4, then a string that is 9, and then 0, and then 5.03, and then another array which has 3 and then 4. Okay, so I'll just tell you how to access each element. So whenever you document.write, if you print out the whole array, then I'll print out the whole array with the comments. But if you want a single element, then you can do you can access it by using square brackets like that. And then yeah, so in programming, it's kind of different. So like the first element, it would be 0, second element would be 1, third element would be 2, and so on. Okay, so if you do 0, it will print out 1 because that's the first element. If you do 3, they'll print out the fourth element. So 1, 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, 6. Okay, so that's how it works. And yeah, so if you print out like 7, they'll get 5.3 because 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 5.03. Okay, and now if you want to do 8, which is the array inside the array, they'll give the array, which is 3 and 4. But if you want to access an element in an array, which is also in an array, then you can do another brackets and 0. Okay, so then that will do 3, and then if you change that to 1, then that'll give 4. Okay, and so on. And if you have like another, if you have like a 10, but the array doesn't have a 10th element, then it's just gonna give undefined. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, and also variable can also be equal to undefined. or it can also be equal to null. Okay, they're almost the same thing, and it kind of makes sense, undefined. Okay, because it's not defined. Now, since we did that, now let's go to objects. Okay, so var my object equals to a curly brackets, and then click enter, and then inside this object you can have different properties. For example, okay, first let's do man. Okay, person. Okay, so var person, because since it's also a variable, you always put var. And remember, you also have to end it with a semicolon. Okay, now you can do name, and then instead of equals, you can do this thing, the colon, and the name equals to Jack, let's say, a string, and then comma, age, 14, comma, let's say, family, or I'll do parents, and then it's going to have an array, let's say, Bob and Sophia, okay? And then you don't have to put a comma here, okay? And then what you have to do is you need to do, to like get all the elements, you do document.write, you can do person, and then person dot name to access the name of it, and then Jack, and then person dot age, so I'll get 14, and then person dot parents, and then since parents is an array, you can access it by the square brackets. So if you do 0, then I'll get Bob. If you do 1, I'll get Sophia. Okay, and then you can also make a sentence out of it. So you can do person dot name plus is plus person dot age plus years old. Okay, now I'll give Jack is 14 years old because the person dot name is Jack plus is plus person dot age, which is 14 plus years old. So Jack is 14 years old. So that was the first part, and I'll see you in the next part. So yeah, see you. Hey guys, so welcome back to part 2. In part 1 we learned like things about the data types and arrays and things like that, and we also learned the document.write function. In part 2 we're gonna be learning about like other ways, like we'll be learning about functions, object instances, and much more things. Okay, so let's just get started. So I'm just gonna like refresh this page. And the first thing that we'll look at is called something called functions. Okay, so function is basically like a block of code. Okay, like let's say you have var x equals 3, and then document.write. Okay, so like that will give 3. But instead of doing all of that, you can yeah. So like instead of if you like wanted to keep printing out like that, document.write x. Okay, like if you want to keep doing that, that's kind of useless, but it's really inefficient. So what you can do is you can use a function. A function is basically just a block of code. Okay, so function test, and then you basically, this is how you write a function. So the function, and then the name of the function, mine is called test, and then 2 parentheses, I'll tell you guys what that is for later, and then a curly bracket, and then all of your code inside, and then like exit the curly bracket. So and then if we run that, nothing will happen. Okay, but that's because there's a block of code that needs to be run. Okay, it's like we need to execute the function. Okay, so you can do test, and then 2 parentheses, and then the semicolon. So that's how you like run this block of code. Okay, so that'll give 3. And now instead of doing var x equals 3, like what if we want to keep changing the value of x? Okay, so like instead of doing that, you can actually just put the variable name in the parentheses. Okay, and then you can over here you can say yeah, you actually don't need this part, and then you can say over here, for example, 5. Okay, so now yeah, so like this in this bracket, it's basically saying that x is going to be equal to 5, and then you have to print out x. Okay, so then I'll get 5, and then if you do something like hello, I'll print hello. Okay, And then you can also have multiple, and by the way, like these things inside, for example, x is called an argument, okay? So like x, y, z, okay? And you can do document.write y, and then document.write okay, and then obviously you can just have like a plus break, and then plus break, plus break. Okay, so now you can go like this. Okay, so like when you do this, it says undefined. Well, that's because we only give the value for hello, which is x. Okay, for x, which is hello. Okay, so it only printed out hello. But now, if you want to give multiple arguments, you can do a comma, like you did over here, and then so that was x, and now you're giving y. So y is 1, let's say, and then z is, let's say, it's going to be true. Okay, and then hello, 1, and true. So this is called function, okay? This is called function syntax. Yeah. And now you can also do something called return function, where you basically just return. Oh yeah, so like you can create a variable, let's say, so var. Let me just like remove this. Okay, so you can create a variable, let's say var sum equals to x plus y plus z. Okay. And then you can return sum. Okay, basically what this does, the return function, is just like whenever you call the function will be equal to whatever this function returns. So, for example, if you do test 5, 4, 3, nothing will happen. Well, that's because we need to document or write it. Document or write, and then I'll give 12. Why? Because first of all, we put 3 arguments in the test. So what is 5, 4, 3? 5 plus 4 plus 3 is 12. Okay, so it calculated that using the sum, and then it said that, well, this function is going to be equal to 12. Okay, so like test 5, 4, 3 is going to be equal to 12. So document or write 12. Okay, so that was function notation, and then I'll move on to objects. So guys, welcome back to part 3 of this video, and this video in part 3 is just going to show if statements and for loops and while loops. Okay, so let's just go to if statements. For example, let's say you have var x equals 5. Okay, you can do if x is smaller than 10, then oh my gosh. Okay, never mind. If x is smaller than 10, then document.write 10. Okay. And then document to write x. Okay, then that's going to print out 5. Why? Okay, because it's saying if the value of x is smaller than 10, which it is, because x is 5 and 5 is smaller than 10, then document.write x. Okay, and if that's not true, so else document.write x. Yeah, then document.write no. Okay, so if you have, let's say, 11, then I'll say no. Why? Because first it checks if 11 is smaller than 10, which it is not. 11 is bigger than 10, so it's going to go to else, document or write no. Okay, so there's also something called else if, so you can have else if. You could do else if x is equal to 15. Okay, this is how you check if something is equal to 15, or like equal to, so like if this number is equal to this value, or if this value is equal to this value, then you want to do document.write 15. Okay, and then you can do else document.write 10 or no. Okay, no. Yeah. So basically how this works is you have a variable called x. First it checks, okay, let's say x is 1, okay? So if x is smaller than 10, which it is, then it prints out x, okay? So in this case it will print out 1, okay? But if x is equal to 15, then it's going to print out 15, because else if x is equal to 15, then do this. Because okay, so x is equal to 15. 15 is not smaller than 10, so it goes to this one. And 15 is equal to 15, so it prints out 15. But now if x is equal to 12, then it's going to give out no. Why? Because 12 is not smaller than 10. It's not equal to 15. So else do this. Okay. So if none of these conditions are true, then do this. Okay. And you can also check if x is not equal to 15. So not equal to 15, then it'll print out 15. Okay. So this exclamation mark means not equal to. Okay. So exclamation mark and then equals. That means if it's not equal to. Okay. So 12, is it smaller than 10? No, so it goes here. Is 12 not equal to 15? That's true, so it prints out document or write 15. Okay, and just skips this part. Okay, so that was if and else statements and stuff. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do switch statement. Yeah, so switch is kind of like else and if else statements. So var x equals 3. So instead of using like many else if statements, you can just write switch. Okay, so switch. Which variable do you want to compare? X. Okay, and you can do case 1 document dot write 1, and then if it's case 2, then document dot write 2, and if it's case 3, then document dot write 3. Okay, and then you also need a break here. I'll explain this all of it like right now, just a second, and then default document dot write other number. Yeah, there's just like a random process. Okay, so basically what this says is that it compares x, which is equal to 3. So if x is equal to 1, then print out 1. If x is equal to 2, then print out 2. If x is equal to 3, then print out 3. And you also need a break at the end. Okay, so let's see what this does. It prints out 3 because x is equal to 3. If we do 2, it's going to say 2, and if we say 1, it's going to say 1. Okay, but if it's 5, it's going to say not an option of numbers, because this default is kind of like a else in the if else statement. If none of the conditions are true, then run this. Okay, so that's switch statement. So that's pretty simple. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna cover loops. Loops are really important. Okay, so for loop, and there's also called a while loop. Okay, first I'm just gonna look at for loops because they're the most commonly used. So basically, the for loop and the while loop, they basically repeat something. So this is how it works. So var I equals 0. I should be smaller than 10. I plus plus. Document dot write I plus break. Okay, how does this work? So it prints out all of this, but how does it work? Okay, so it starts with a variable called I, which is equal to 0. Then it says that keep increasing I by 1. Okay, so plus plus is the same thing as I equals I plus 1, and I minus minus is the same thing as I equals I minus 1. Okay, so we're just going to do I plus plus. So keep increasing I's value by 1, and then do this. Okay, so first it does var I equals 0, and then it does document or write I, and then it increases I, and then it does this, and so on. It just keeps increasing I, and then doing this, increasing I, and then document or write, and then it keeps doing that until I is equal to 10, because when I is equal to 10, the whole loop just stops. Okay, so that's how the for loop works. Okay, and then there's also a while loop. While loop. Okay, it's basically the same thing, kind of. It just instead of putting a lot of things here, it's kind of like more organized, I guess. I actually don't know, but var I equals 0, and it basically repeats everything inside it until this statement is false. So I should be smaller than 10, and then document.write I plus break. Okay, let's say I equals 1, and then I should be smaller than 11, so I can print all the numbers from 1 to 10, okay? And then you can do I plus plus. So basically what this does, it starts by saying that var I is going to be equal to 1, and then it basically just repeats this. So it prints out I, and then it increases I. It prints out I, it increases I, until I is equal to 11, where it just stops, okay? So you can see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then when it goes to 11, it just stops, okay? Now, there are two keywords in the for loop and the while loop, which are called break and continue. It's pretty simple, both of them, so I'm just going to go ahead and do for I equals 0. I should be smaller than 10, and I plus plus. Now we can do, but this basically just prints all the numbers from 0 to 9, so plus br, and then 0 to 9, okay? But now what we're going to do is we're going to use the break and continue, okay? So if, I'm actually going to put this up here, because we just learned the if-else statement, so I'm going to use that. So if I is equal to 5, because we want to skip 5, okay, then continue. And then you can see that 5 is like not there. Basically what the continue thing does, so the program, it goes from up to down, by the way. Like the computer reads it from up to down, like we do. And yeah, so it keeps printing out I, and then it comes across this for every single element. So for example, if I is equal to 1, is 1 equal to 5? No, so it just does this, okay? But if I equals to 5, then continue. What continue does, it basically just goes back at the top, and it increments I, and then just prints this. It kind of just skips the element, basically, okay? And then break just stops the whole loop, okay? So if you do break, then at 5, it just breaks the whole loop, okay? So you can't see anything else. So it just like stops the loop. So those are for loop and while loop. Oh, and one more thing. You can also use array operations with loops. For example, if you have an array called for numbers equals to 5, 3, 2, 0, and then you can have a for loop that basically iterates through all the numbers. So for I equals 0, I should be smaller than numbers dot length. That's like a new keyword. So the length thing, it basically just returns, or like this thing over here just set to the number of elements that this array has. So numbers dot length, that will just be 4, because numbers has 4 elements. As you can see, 5 is 1, and then 3, and then 2, and then 0. That's 4 elements. Okay. So numbers dot length is equal to 4, and then I plus plus. Then you can do document.write numbers, and then instead of doing 0, because then that will just do, I'll show you, okay? That will just do 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, because numbers of the 0 is always 5, okay? So if you do numbers of the 1, that will be 3, and if you do numbers of 2, that will be 2, and then if you do numbers 3, that will give 0, okay? But what we want to do is we want to do I, and that's just going to print out the whole list, okay? Because it starts with 0, and then it prints out number 0, which is 5. And then it goes to 1, okay? And then prints out number 1, which is 3. And then it goes to 2, and then prints out number 2, which is 2. And then goes to 3, and then prints out numbers 3, which is 0, okay? So that's array operations with for loops. And now we are going to learn how to connect HTML with JavaScript, okay? So, yeah, let's just go ahead and do that, I guess. Yeah, so like I said, you need to know HTML for this. Let's say you have an input. So input type equals text. And then the ID is going to be Bob. So yeah, so to act as you can see over here, what we just did is we made an input field, so we can type anything here. And then let's say we get a button. Okay, so button. Click me. Okay, and then there's a button called click me. Okay. So what's gonna happen is we're gonna do on click. So like when this button gets clicked, you basically run a function, because like we learned functions called you can name it anything. Let's just say next, okay, because it does the next thing. All right, and then we actually have to define the function, so we need to write up the function, the block of code, function next. What's gonna happen now is really cool. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna do var input. So like we're gonna get whatever the user input. Okay. To do that, we're going to input equals to document dot get element by its ID, okay? And what is this ID? Its ID is Bob. So we're going to do Bob, okay? And then dot value, so the value of the input, okay? So now we can do alert, because that's like another way of typing something to document. Alert input, okay? And now let's say we type in hello world, click me, and say it's hello world. Okay, basically what it did is whenever we click the button, it runs this function called next, and this variable, it gets the document the input, or like whatever the user inputted from the input tag, and then it alerts it. Okay. Yeah, so that was how you get things from the HTML document, or you could also do query selector. So query selector, but right now it wouldn't work. So let's say hello world. It wouldn't work, okay? Because query selector, it's not like get element by ID, so you need to specify the ID, okay? In HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you specify ID by using a hashtag, okay? So now you can do hello world, and then that, okay? And now, you can also do class name. So let's say this class is equal to Bob. So you can do document, so document.get elements. Remember that S, because you're getting several, because the class can get a lot of things, unlike an ID, by class name, and then the class name is Bob. But this also wouldn't work. Hello world, undefined, okay? And this is why, because basically, let me see something. Yeah, so basically, since there are like lots, there can be lots of class elements. Okay, so like let's say we have another input, and then its class is Bob2. Okay, and then since there are two elements with Bob, this basically gets an array. Okay, so Bob0 is what we want. Okay, the first element in the array. Okay, so yeah, and then that will print out hello world. I'll show you guys how this works. So console. Yeah, so if we do document dot get elements by class name, and then if we do Bob, as you can see, it returns array of inputs. So with one, like the array only has one element, which is this input. So if we want to do this thing, so var x equals to just a second, var x equals to that. Okay, and now if we do x, we will get the array of elements with the class of Bob. So if we do x0, then we get this element over here. Like I'll do that again, and you can see over here. Yeah. Well, yeah, okay. So basically, you can see over here, is pointing at the input box. Okay, so that's how it works. So which is why we need a 0, because it's an array basically. So yeah, that's that. And then we also will need function objects. Okay, that's gonna be a little tricky, so you really need to pay attention. Okay, so basically, like we learned objects like var object and then equals and name and so on. Okay, you can create an object like this. Okay, like there's another way of creating an object. So I'll say function person. Okay, this is called a constructor function. This is how you create another object. Okay, now you can give this person's for example name and an age. Okay, so this dot name equals name, this dot age equals age, and this is how you like make sure that the user like that you yourself who's typing this code will later give these values. Okay, but if you want to make sure, or if you make sure that that the values are constant, then you can do this dot, for example, height or weight equals 53 kgs. Okay, so these are like the arguments of the function. Okay, and this is like just a variable in the function. Okay, and you can do this dot function, sorry, this dot say equals to a function. Okay, you can do that. So this dot say is a function, and then we can do document dot write this dot name plus is plus this dot age plus years old and is plus this dot weight plus kg. Okay, so now nothing will happen. Well, that's because we need to create an object first. Okay, so let's create different people. So you can do this by doing var let's say person 1 equals to a new person. Okay, and his name, that's the first thing, is going to be, let's say, Jack, and his age is going to be, let's say, 18. And var person 2 equals to a new person, and let's say his name is Bob, and his age is 29. Okay, now we can actually do person 1. Yeah, so person 1 dot say. Okay, so like for person 1, he has a function called say. Okay, person dot say, and then Jack is 18 years old and 53 kgs. And then we can also do person 2 dot say, and then it says Bob is 29 years old and 53 kgs. Okay, and then we can also change the values, so we can do for example yeah, so we can do I'm also gonna have a break over here, so plus break. Okay, so I'm gonna do yeah, so you can also change the value. So you can do this dot weight, not this dot weight, but person 1 dot weight equals 60 kgs. Okay, so he got another 7 kilograms. Okay, person 1 dot say. So now you can see it changed. So Jack is 18 years old and 53 kgs, and then we change the value. Jack is 18 years old and is 60 kgs. You can also do this by doing like incrementing it kind of. So plus 7. Okay, so then that will person 1 dot weight, yeah, and then 60 kgs. Then you can also do plus 10, now we have 63 and so on. So that's how you create like this is called a function constructor or constructor function, and this is called an object instance. Okay, so yeah, and then you can check if this object is an instance of this function. So you can just do that by doing document.write person 1 is instance of, sorry, person 1 instance of person. okay? And I'll say true. But if you do, for example, person, yeah, so person 2 is also true. And then let's say you have another variable called var x equals 3. If you do x, dog is false. Okay? It basically checks if this object is made from this constructor function, okay? That's what it checks. So, that's object, yeah, whatever, okay? Constructor functions and stuff. What else do I have to cover? Oh yeah, okay. So, I'm just gonna like delete all of this. Refresh. So we learned like document.get element by ID and things like that. Now what you can do is you can actually like import other libraries and stuff, and a library is kind of like a module, basically, that helps you do a thing. For example, if you make games, it helps you make games. It uses JavaScript syntax, but it basically it basically just like teaches you how to doesn't teach you, sorry. It helps you in making a game better. For example, let's say in JavaScript, if you want to create like a canvas, it's basically like where the game is happening. You need to write like a ton of code, but if you import a module, then you can just like do it like in one line. Okay, so it's basically like easier. Okay, so I won't be teaching that in this tutorial, but maybe another one. Okay, but I have another thing in mind. It's called JSON. Okay, now JSON is really important because it stands for so that's JSON. It stands for JavaScript, and then object, and then notation. Okay. And now I'm just gonna show you guys how JSON works. Whew. Here we go. Okay, so JSON it's basically like let's say you have a new file, call it test.json, and then save. And then this is how you write JSON. You always start with 2 brackets, and then you can have like country. Sorry, yeah. So you always need quotations. So country, and then this name. Let's say. Oh no, yeah, this kind of bad. Okay, let's do. Okay, yeah, this is gonna be a little complicated, but you still have to catch up. Okay, so person or people. Now let's do people. Okay, people. An array. So it's gonna be an array. Just like that. Okay. And now in here, I'm gonna have a name. Let's say Bob, and age 23. Okay, or I should put that like that. Okay, and then you can have another person. So like that, name Jack, and age 56. Okay, so that's basically how JSON works. Basically, you start with like 2 curly brackets, and then you have like you don't have to do it like this. You can also just have something like favorite or favorite food. Say ice cream, I guess. Ice cream. Yeah, you can just have that. Okay. And then comma. Okay. Remember the comma over there always. Okay. So it's basically using the JavaScript syntax of objects in JSON. Yeah, so that's JSON. Thanks for watching this very basic JavaScript tutorial. There's a lot more in JavaScript. This was just like a very basic tutorial. Yeah, so thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time in my next video. So see you.